Well, hello there. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2 o'clock session. Welcome to Confirm NYC. And our 2 o'clock session, AI, DL, RPA, what does all of this mean for IG? With our speaker, Susan Whitmire. We're going to bring Susan on in just a minute. Before that, we'd like to introduce our sponsor for this session. Our sponsor for the session is FileTrail. And FileTrail is reshaping the information risk management landscape by enabling firms to meet urgent client demands, to pass audits, and to address new compliance rules with a modern approach to records management and information governance. What we'd like to do now is just take a quick look at how our gold sponsor, FileTrail, can help your company with information governance in the modern age. Please enjoy this short video. All right. Thank you very much to our gold sponsor, FileTrail. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for the session. I'm going to bring Susan Whitmire on stage, so-called stage. Just a quick introduction. Susan and I go way back. So Susan is an information governance technical specialist at IBM. Where she helps organizations find the right solutions for governing their information by bringing together practitioner experience in information management and governance strategy together with IBM solutions. So she has over 30 years experience as an IG practitioner, mostly in insurance. And I got to tell you, I work for an IBM business partner. I've had the privilege of working alongside Susan in several customer implementations, and I can tell you firsthand the level of knowledge and experience and just the deep understanding of the nuances of information management that she possesses is unparalleled. So we're truly blessed to have her here with us today. And so without further delay, please welcome Susan Whitmire.
Thank you so much. Such kind words. I appreciate that. All right. Well, I think you've heard all about me. There's just a few other things I thought I'd mention. Of course, I have a long time volunteer life in ARMA and in the ARMA International Educational Foundation, as well as AIM. And I also wanted to mention I am the owner of a hairless dog, or maybe I'm owned by a hairless dog. That all depends. I think he owns me. All right, enough. Our session today, this is what we're really going to get into. Hopefully by the end of this, you will be able to identify some of the automation capabilities for enhancing IG at your organization, maybe follow key concepts for success and gain insight from others' learning curve. Sounds kind of weird, but you get it. We learn from others. That's the thing that I have enjoyed the most throughout my career is the networking, learning from others. So let's get started. So you hear a lot of buzzwords around today. You're going to hear hyper automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and RPA, robotic process automation. According to Gartner, hyperautomation has been trending at an unrelenting pace over the past few years, mainly because of the pent-up demand for operationally resilient business processes. As business executives demand a path to digital operational excellence, there is often a backlog of requests from business stakeholders for automation using one or more technologies. I think we all relate to that. We want to automate these things, but yet it seems more difficult. Hyperautomation is irreversible and inevitable. Everything that can be automated will be automated. Competitive pressures for efficiency, business agility are forcing organizations to address it. Organizations that resist the pressures will struggle to remain competitive or differentiate. I definitely believe we've seen that a lot in the past year. Computers we say that computers think like human beings, but that's really kind of a vision. I personally don't believe we're there yet, but they are getting close in some areas, and it's getting better all the time. But what that requires is that cognitive ability. And so the key to attaining a richer digital intelligence are cognitive type systems versus the typical rules-based, logic-driven, dependent on organized information.
Susan, I hate to jump in here. My apologies. I just want to let you know that the slides are not moving. You may be showing it. You may be moving it on a different monitor or something. We're seeing the the outline.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
That's it.
Nope, wrong one. There we go. Sorry. Okay. There we are. This is what I was showing. So where we had all of these definitions. My apologies for that. And so, we were talking about that traditional rules base that you think about when what your cognitive systems are being able to understand. What your typical computer systems are able to understand. But with cognitive, you're not dependent on rules. They can handle the disparate sources. They can understand unstructured information in such a way that images or natural language or sounds in books, emails, tweets, journals, blogs, images, videos even. So they unlock meaning because they can do more reason, hence cognitive, giving us new context to weigh and consider as we move forward. And the other thing is these types of systems learn continually, honing our own expertise so we can immediately take more informed action. And they will interact with our customers and with us, dissolving those barriers between the human and machine versus, fulfilling that unique, essential user experience that everybody desires today. So we're going to go through and define each one of these. in a little more detail, and we'll go through some examples and how this will work. Hyperautomation is a concept involving the use of an ecosystem of advanced automation technologies to augment enterprises' use of human intelligence. And these advanced technologies include robotic process automation, which we're going to talk more about, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. And it's rapidly shifting from an option to a condition of survival, as Gartner has already told us. And robotic process automation is typically low code, which means doesn't require an extensive amount of programming. Artificial intelligence and many other hyper automation technologies have proved to be really must-haves ingredients for architecting and addressing critical business demands. The benefits are, of course, increased productivity by automating repetitive and mundane tasks, things that we've typically had to do, but they can be automated, maybe driving down the costs by leveraging these, and minimize some business risks, streamline processes. So maybe grow, revenue in your organization by delivering customized and automated client experiences at scale. Just think really and truly how much has changed just in the last 12 months for many companies. Now we have companies that are surviving with you can buy online and you can have contactless delivery or pickup, or companies before that had never, probably had not entertained that type of model. So that has made a huge difference, and you can see those that embraced and that are successful, and sad to say, so many couldn't get there. They were too far behind and they were not successful. Artificial intelligence really refers to the simulation of human intelligence in machines, and they're programmed to think like humans and mimic their actions. The term may also be applied to any machine that exhibits traits or associated with the human mind, such as learning and problem solving, which is a huge leap over traditional document capture solutions that you may use artificial intelligence. I mean, that's one thing. What it means is we no longer have to use those zones and those templates to really get to the right information. I have been in this profession a very long time, and I so remember we were so excited when we could image things, and as long as we knew that this address block was always going to be, or this subscriber number was always going to be in this part of the form, we imaged based on the form type because we had that template. We knew exactly where that information would be. But what this means is that we no longer need these zones or these templates to be able to find, and those kind of rules to find the data on the page, or even to determine what type of document it is. We can simply read the document like a human and understand what it is, what it's telling us, and then we can decide what to do with it. And so now we're applying those data strategies to our content. So that has a huge impact. And trusted artificial intelligence is not just a strategic imperative, but it's also an ethical one, if you want to think about that. As the result of the work we're doing around, trust and artificial intelligence, organizations or companies must understand and explain how their AI models are making decisions and why they're making them. So, in working with customers that are in the process of making AI a reality, we have recognized that there are challenges in doing that. And those include maybe the lack of skills within their organizations or the lack of trust in the models. So again, something to definitely think about and consider. Moving on into machine learning, machine learning is really that application of artificial intelligence. Now we apply it, and systems that provide it provides systems the ability to automatically learn and improve from experience without being explicitly programmed. Machine learning focuses on the development of computer programs that can access data and use it to learn for themselves. Examples maybe are medical diagnosis or image processing, prediction, classification, learning association. The intelligent systems built on machine learning algorithms have the capability to learn from past experience or historical data. So classic example here is classification or auto classification, and it's especially beneficial for automated records categorization, therefore taking some of that decision making from the employer staff member that does not have the real background or expertise. And I can't, to me, auto classification or auto categorization or whatever way you want to use that or consider that is one of the most key items available for information governance. So next we're going to talk about deep learning. We're kind of just going down this just to make sure we were kind of clear about these buzzwords that we hear them and what do they really mean to us. So deep learning is an AI function, and it imitates the workings of the human brain in processing data and creating patterns for decision making. So it's also known as deep neural learning or deep neural network. It is a class of machine learning and it's a class of machine learning algorithms that uses multiple layers to progressively extract higher level features from raw input. So if we go back to our image processing example, lower layers may identify edges, while higher layers may identify the concepts relevant to a human, such as digits, letters, or faces, or things like that. So taking it again from just that basic, going much deeper into what you can learn from that. And then the last one I wanted to mention today is RPA, robotics process automation. Again, back to what Gartner had said about hyperautomation and RPA, those being the two that will be the most prevalent in our time today. And RPA is the technology that allows anyone to configure computer software or a robot to emulate and integrate the actions of a human interacting within digital systems to execute a business process. Of course, it reduces labor as well as prevents human error. In one example, a large consumer commercial bank used 85, remember this number, 85 software bots to run 13 processes that handled 1.5 million requests in a year. Okay. Remember, okay, 85 software bots to handle 13 processes. This is going to come up later in my presentation. So sometimes metaphors help me kind of translate. So the obvious comparison is you have a physical robot, and I think of, because we have a car manufacturer here where I live, my son works for a company that is a supplier for that manufacturer, and they help them automate the robotic car manufacturing process. That is a robot. This robot knows when to put the door on the car, how the car goes together, where on the assembly line, and that's all automated with very little human intervention anymore. So software robots do the same thing for a worker who may sit at a computer all day and do a repetitive task. Maybe it's like check zip codes and addresses, log into systems, retrieve data and enter data, update accounts, address changes. I see many, many examples of where this could benefit organizations today, especially depending upon some of their processes related to maybe their records disposition or something of that nature. So sometimes that can be a very manual type task. All right, so let me move. All right, so let's talk about the use cases. Where do I've mentioned, all these different types of technology things, but where would we really use them? Well, basic classic examples include things like procurement, orders, POs, accounts payable. You may even have, your requisition order processing, reporting, and tracking. Now, I've been working remotely as long as I have been with IBM, which is 8 years, I think. And not everyone has worked remotely that long, but I guarantee in any organization, if you needed to order supplies for something, you would do it, of course, online. But is that something where those types of processes, once you determine what you needed, what happens in the background? How is that all automated? So for those of us that work remotely, our order transitions to our nearest nationwide, maybe even worldwide supply vendor, who then completes the order and delivers it to our house. So I guarantee there's probably a bot behind that, a robot taking care of many of those types of activities. So that's one. And maybe if you're in the financial industry, maybe the financial processes, your year-end closing and reports, taxes, tax calculations. Oh my gosh, travel booking and expenses. Of course, who's traveled for the last year or so? But I mean, that has been a big one. I mean, I just loved it. The fact that if I had an invoice from a hotel, I could just simply have it set up so that copy of my bill would automatically forward into the expense system, and I didn't really have to take any action at all. Human resources, again, there's a lot of opportunities there. And it can go beyond just whether or not you have to, for payroll purposes, identify when you're, taking vacation or time off, and you may only submit to payroll when that happens, a timesheet of sort. But then what does payroll do with it? How many processes do they have where there's an opportunity to do more automation? And then mission processes, thinking about things that are very specific to your type of industry or organization. Maybe if you're in insurance, it might be claims opening and closing, or just processing those claims. So again, these are all the types of use cases where you have opportunity to use these different to use technology and improve the process. But this also should resonate with this group. And why I wanted to bring this up is so many of these things on here should also appear to you as type of information that also must be governed. Okay, it won't move. I really did want to go down to the next page. Oh, come on. Okay, so now, we've talked about what kind of things we can automate, but how do we go about doing that, and what does it really mean? So I think one of the biggest takeaways is this concept of to discover it, augment it, apply, automate. And discover is, that part of understanding what really goes on today and where are your opportunities and what kind of impact can that make. But RPA, robotics process automation, is really a way to augment a workforce. I know when we first started talking about this, people thought, oh, well, you just want to eliminate my job. Not at all. We want you to be able to spend more time on maybe things that are mostly meaningful and important. And, it's the kind of thing where it can just perform those repetitive tasks and act on data extracted from unstructured documents or automate systems that don't have APIs. That's a classic example. Yeah, I've got this one system. Oops, now I have to cut and paste that request from this system to this system because we don't have a connector between them. So again, augment workforce. And then what we've been talking about, AI and operational intelligence that classify and understand content. Classify and understand content. If we can automate, apply intelligence to do that, that is a tremendous boost to being able to govern our information from many standpoints. And I'm not talking about just a categorization to map to the retention schedule to apply retention and disposal to it. I mean, that governance may also be, is this secure? Does this content need to have some redaction if it is made available? Or is it only, is it top secret and can't be shared at all, and that kind of thing. And then automate, where we can automate content, and automate operations such as, capture and process documents, or automate some of the decisions, digitize content. I sort of laugh because I just love the concept of, okay, I can, use my phone to take a picture of my check now and get it automatically deposited. So what could be easier than that? And that's exactly where we're going. So if there is a bank that still requires you to go inside to a teller to make a bank deposit today, that's a problem. And unless the bank was ready for our pandemic, that couldn't have happened. So that's where staying on top of these things is so important. So now, I'm jumping back a little bit to RPA and robotic process automation, because I wanted just to mention the difference between robots and classic workflow solutions. So workflow solutions have to be programmed. Okay, with RPA, I guess it's just like a super, super duper way to have people do what they want to do, um, and record it just as a set of steps. So it doesn't require all the programming that you would if you were going to go out and develop the workflows. So that's why earlier I mentioned it's more referred to as something like a low code. Now, I am not, even though my title has the word technical in it, I am not a programmer. And I always say I'm not super technical, and then people argue with me and they say, oh, yes, you are, but I'm not a programmer. However, I have learned that I can do low code, use something like an RPA, a bot to do a function using these commands, and it is really amazing. So I mean, I always give the example: if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I am slightly digressing, but there go my stories. And anybody that's heard me speak before knows that I always go off on a few stories, but they help sometimes, maybe not. So and the thing about using a bot is that you can edit the steps and you train it by having it do what people do, and then they go off and they do what they do. Now, there might be a few risks to that. I'll mention that in a minute. And so where this works really well is maybe logging into applications, copying and pasting data, keyboard or mouse actions. And at the end of the day, the idea is you want to be able to show an audit trail so you can play back everything the robots did. So what are the benefits? Well, eliminate errors and reduce that swivel chair integration, opening one account, swiveling over to open another, or efficiency where people can get more done in less time, and it and with the repetitive tasks automated, people can do more important work, so higher value work. And you may be thinking, well, what does that do with, content management? Where we're going with this is you could do something like with capture. And, I've mentioned capture, image processing, a whole lot of different ways to do this. So capture, the OCR capability in RPA is pretty basic. So you take whatever's on that screen, scrape, cut and paste. That's great. I already have this data, but what about, new documents, maybe paper, even electronic? Is that intelligent document capture would automate and capture the extraction of data, and most importantly, the validation of the data. That's not what a robot's doing. So robots are working with clean and accurate data, but that validation takes you beyond, above and beyond. And you can also look at something like if you're using any kind of case management solution and like supercharging that case with robotics, again, for the repetitive tasks. Or maybe the robot automatically opens the new case when it encounters a set of circumstances. So you will see that the robots and the idea of enterprise content management is they go hand in hand. There's a lot of opportunity for them in those areas. And content management means information governance is part of what should be governed. That's what I should say. Okay. So in my looking at my clock, making sure I don't overrun today. So let's talk about some lessons learned. And, if you have technology without governance, or I have seen where we have a lot of opportunities for technology without governance. And I remember when suddenly SharePoint, this is our new magic solution. Again, I've been around for a while. Gene was really nice when he said, 30 plus years, but anyway, it's been a while. So SharePoint suddenly became the new norm. But then we had a proliferation of content within SharePoint. And then organizations were realizing it wasn't managed there either, like it wasn't managed on their file shares. So then there was orphan team sites. What were we going to do with that? So then along comes social media and instant messaging, and our legal departments are just having a fit, and this was real life for me. They didn't want anybody to be using that. How are we going to manage this? What were we going to do? And I remember developing the policies for determining what we would consider as record, not record, what information had to be governed, how would we govern it, how would we audit our policy. All of that had to be taken into consideration. So I say that because now with our bots or chat bots, even think how many times you get to talk to a chat bot when you go out to a website, when you really just want to ask a question and you go to a chat bot. How many are there? Well, that banking example was that banking example was that there was 85 bots covering 13 processes. Wow. So how are you classifying, organizing, managing those 85 bots? And, how are you actually being able to manage their audit trails and make sure that they're doing exactly what they're doing? So that's where I see technology without governance has been around for a while, and then we continue to go down that path. Just saying, these are all my opinion. I am not representing anybody but myself today. Then the other thing is, that we have a tendency to focus on the end of the life cycle. We don't think about what's happening at the beginning. We focus on the very end when it's really imperative that we look at what is happening at the beginning. And then, employee expectations. Are employees' expectations being met? And are we expecting our employees or our staff to be these records management decision makers, being able to categorize or classify information or know where it needs to go or what needs to be done with it. And then I think we also have a tendency to forget about structured data. That's one of those things people don't want to talk about. We seem to deal with our unstructured. That seems to be more comfortable. And we have a lot of structured data out there. I mean, those rows and columns in databases, and how are we able to manage that? And I personally am a huge advocate of doing something along the lines of a data mapping, from your retention policy schedules to the types of content your categories have, and where does that content live, and is it structured or unstructured? And you may not be able to enforce all your policies to every tiny bit of your content and your data, but you at least know where it is. And then those unenforceable policies. I was, growing up in this space, literally, I grew up in this space. You had to your policies had to be enforceable. You couldn't just write a policy. And so often I've seen in organizations where they'll say, oh yeah, well, we have a policy and everybody's expected to follow it, but yet you don't give them the tools to follow it. And so those are some of the things that I've kind of learned, and I hope that you have seen that. Hopefully you don't experience any of that in your own organizations, or you're not seeing that. This is, again, just some of the things that I've seen. I've seen a few questions pop up, or comments maybe from my friends. Yes, change management, and I agree. Change management is huge, a major component of information governance. And I really failed to mention that I actually used to do a thing just on change management, because that was really the background behind the scenes of everything that there was. So, are there any questions? We have just a few minutes. I think they said this was going to cut at 45, at quarter till the hour, depending upon your time zone. I don't want to say what time. So,
yeah, there was I know you're not seeing the stream, Susan, but there was quite a bit of discussion around ethical walls and the use of chatbots around those, and a lot of engagement, even if they didn't materialize exactly as questions. Quite a lot of engagement there. I've got a quick question for you. As far as what you're seeing, within IBM for RPA and the adoption of RPA technologies, or perhaps even more importantly, the opening up of budgets to enable next generation RPA technologies. What are you seeing? Because I know there's a lot of shift, and there's a lot of movement among the big companies like the IBMs to acquire RPA companies, and just a lot of movement around the space. What are you seeing as far as adoption?
Yeah, well, I mean, we did recently, we announced late last year about we acquired WDP, and we actually see RPA as a bit of an entry point, because it can automate, because of its ability to do some things that need to be done. And again, because I do work for IBM, and my space is a lot of the functionality with our FileNet and IBM Enterprise Record Solutions, there are some processes within those solutions that need more of that automation, and RPA is a perfect fit for some of those. So we're actually people are probably more interested in that, because it's easier to implement, and it is, doesn't have a huge price tag. What can I say?
There's a proposition from Ann there to do that CM program together. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, if there are no other questions, I guess on behalf of the ARMA Board of Directors, on behalf of Confirm NYC, thank you so much, Susan, as always, for sharing your deep expertise and your time with us here today. This was terrific. Somebody says FileTrail, is it a standalone? I'm not sure what that means. Okay, but anyhow, thank you. Please join me in thanking Susan. Thank you, Susan, so much. Folks, we've got another round of sessions at 3 o'clock, just in about 15 minutes. Then another one at 4 o'clock, and don't forget we've got the networking and the game at 5 o'clock. So we're super happy you're here with us. Please stick with us throughout the day and enjoy your sessions. And once again, Susan, thank you so much.
Take care, everyone. It was great. Bye.
Bye-bye.